I can always outhold you. I can always outhold that straight face. Hey everybody. She started the last video. She's holding out on me for me to start this video. We want to talk to you a little bit about the marriage.
I did ask you if you were going to start it. I did ask you who was going to start it.
But I said you, didn't
No, you said you.
I? Oh, I did?
That's why I was waiting.
We already worked this out?
Yes, we
and
already
I
talked
forgot?
about this. Yes. You forgot like 5 seconds ago.
Oh.
Yes. So,
What's this video about?
go ahead. You.
We're going to start this video out by talking about the marriage seminar, which we are trying to put together. This is something that is open to anyone who would like to come, whether you've been married for 40 years or whether you've been married for 4 days. We would like for you to feel comfortable coming to the marriage seminar. It's going to be the last weekend of August, and we have kind of an RSVP set up for the facility that's hosting us to have time to prepare and to be able to put together a menu and offer our meals for us. If you choose to come to the marriage seminar, there's 3 ways that you can do that. If you live locally and you don't need a overnight accommodation, then you can come and just go through the lectures or the classes, whatever we're going to call them, throughout the day and get your meals covered for a certain fee. And we're calling that the day pass. So basically what you'll do is you'll be able to come and go as you please as far as the times that you would like to come, or you don't have to spend the night or anything like that. But you will be provided 2 meals on Friday and 2 meals on Saturday. And that coverage is included in the little nominal fee that we have. And in reality, what they have done is they've provided us meals for less than you could buy it at a restaurant somewhere. And it's going to be there at the facility, and it's going to be on our time schedule. So the Crow's Neck facility and the staff have really done a phenomenal job preparing us for hopefully what we're going to have as a good weekend. But if you would like to come and spend the night, you can. They have bunk houses that are available. And I know it's not an ideal situation for husbands and wives to spend the night apart, but we chose to do it this way so that the men can have time to have conversations with other men, that they can meet people that they don't know, and maybe build a little bit of a conversational bond with, so that if they need something, they can exchange information and they can talk to each other, even though they don't know each other. They can kind of spend the days at the retreat with each other, but then they'll have kind of the confidence that, hey, John knew kind of what he was talking about, so I think I'm gonna bounce some stuff off of him and build a rapport with each other over time. But yet somebody that you don't see all the time, somebody that you don't work with, or somebody you don't go to school with, or somebody that's, go to church with or see each other at the grocery store all the time. That kind of thing is what we're wanting to do. And then if you, and that's a separate fee just for the spend the night, and it's just $20 per person, which is very affordable considering what it would cost if you tried to go spend the night somewhere like at a hotel. And the closest one we have is about 45 minutes away. So then if you don't want to eat any of the meals and you don't want to spend the night, you can still come, and we just have to pay, I think it's $15 per person to use the facility. So, that's nothing in comparison to what, you would have if you went to even go to a ball game or a tournament or something like that. You'd have to, we want to accommodate these facilities that provide good places for us to have things like this. So that $15 is really nothing, but that $15 does cover both days, or either day. It's the same fee. You could come and go as you please, or you could come both Friday and Saturday. So the marriage retreat is kind of a last minute idea that I had.
Yeah, I was going to, yeah. Do you want to tell them how that came about?
No, you said I was gonna, so
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I'll talk for a minute. Sorry. So we...
She's kidding about the minute. She's not kidding about the talking.
So we went to Pigeon Forge. So just a little backdrop.
Gatlinburg.
Close to Pigeon Forge.
Pigeon Forge had an
Gatlinburg
option,
and
Gatlinburg had an option.
Sevierville.
Yeah, Sevierville.
Sevierville and
Pigeon Forge in
Gatlinburg.
between them, isn't it?
Yes, we were at church sitting in the office, and they had mailed an invitation to the marriage retreat in the Smoky Mountains. Well, a little backdrop to that, we were married for a good while and never once went to a marriage retreat, which, you know, I don't know what that tells you, but since we had never been to a marriage retreat, we should have been to several, and we didn't. But we had 3 kids and our special needs daughter, a lot going on. So we didn't go. So we finally decided to go after we reconciled, and we hadn't even talked about any of that.
You just did.
Okay, so this is just going to be like kind of on the cuff, if y'all hadn't already figured out. So we'll talk about that later. But since we reconciled, we decided that we're going to try to do everything that we can that's going to help our marriage and strengthen us and give us ideas to help others. So we went to the marriage retreat in Gatlinburg.
Which is highly recommended.
Yes, highly recommended.
You will enjoy going to the marriage retreat.
Yes.
The Great Smoky Mountains Marriage Retreat put
Yes,
on
you can look it up.
by, I think it's associated with Polishing the Pulpit, but Midway and Jasper.
Yes, they're the ones that, I think they're the elders over it, I think.
Yeah, the Midway Church of Christ.
Yeah.
Oops,
so-
we said that too.
Okay, well, it was going to come out eventually. So, anyway, we were at the marriage retreat. We were enjoying it, having a great time, and we went to the car, and
During one of our breaks.
One of our breaks, and we were sitting in the car, and I'm sure I'll say this later on in the future videos a lot, but one thing about Chris that I should have introduced him as is impulsive. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing. So he said, most of the time it's a good thing, but because,
Sometimes the mess I get us in is a bad thing.
Yeah. But sometimes things wouldn't have been done if it wasn't for him doing it. So that's a good thing. But he said, I want us to put on a marriage retreat. But our idea of it at first was, well, even still, but our idea was to target couples that need help, that are actually struggling, because we loved the marriage retreat in the Smokies. We loved it. But a lot of people can't afford to go there. A lot of people can't
Don't
find
have the time.
babysitters to go there, don't have the time. And if you're really, truly, and I'm not saying there's not people there. I'm sure there's a lot of people that go there that are struggling. I'm sure there are. They may not say it. They may not admit it. It may just be another event to go to. I don't know. But, and it was great. But it just seemed to me like it was more to strengthen your marriage and not to actually help you if you're struggling. So even though we're not psychologists, we're not therapists, we don't have degrees in that, we have just regular old life experience.
OJT.
Yes. But I think that's better than a lot of even your degrees. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But so we decided Chris actually called the Crow's Neck.
You almost said we.
Yeah, he called Crow's Neck, and he just asked, he said, we're wanting to do a marriage retreat, and how did you get the Crow's Neck? What made you think of Crow's Neck? What made you think of that place?
Somebody told me about the facility that was down here, that it was like a big conference type environment, like it was a...
Okay, so you just heard, somebody told you about it.
Yeah, well, somebody told us about it, that we had this, and it's not that far from where we are, but it was obscure to us. We had never heard of it until we heard of it, and then once I heard of it, I was like, hey, that may be something to do, and then the impulsivity took over and started making phone calls.
He just called, and he picked the phone, and he said, literally just right there in the parking lot at the break of the marriage retreat. He calls and he talks to the lady, and she says, I have one weekend open for the year of 2023. And it was the August the 25th and 26th, Friday and Saturday. And he said, well, take it. And of course, I'm over there panicking. Like, what are you doing? What are we going to do? You don't even know what we're going to do. What's going on? And he's like, it's going to be okay. We'll figure it out. And of course, everything we do now, we always say, you know, the Lord will open the doors. The Lord will provide opportunities. And we're not going to not go through those doors that the Lord opens for us, where before we didn't take those opportunities.
If you're willing to let the Lord work in your life, He will.
Right.
If you're willing.
Yeah.
So our thing behind that is we do not want to get in the Lord's way, because we have done that too much. And
ever since we've made the decision, you made the decision, and we made the decision together, it's been nonstop. We're busy. There's constantly something going on, but it's, I think it's good. And
it's
I
a
think
labor of love.
Yes, it's constantly something is being thought up in our heads or brought to us that it's an opportunity for us to do. And this is what we want to do with this. But it started out, we wanted to do for not necessarily like a vacation weekend, but we wanted to do for couples that
We don't
were
want it to
struggling,
be a vacation.
that really do need help with their marriage. And then he thought of the great idea of coupling younger couples with, not just younger and older, but normally it's the older couples that have been married the longest and that have more experience and have the best advice, and coupling them with other couples, even through the marriage retreat, to give them advice, you know, that's not, you know, well, some anonymous, if
that's what you need.
If that's what you need, like people that they hadn't even met before. We've talked about getting that started in a program. But just meeting people and setting people up, not just with us. We're not trying to say that we are going to be the ones to talk to everybody and
we can't
help everybody.
There's no way we can talk to everybody who's
and
struggling.
fix everybody's
There's no
relationships,
way.
because we can't. And
There's no way.
we still work on our relationship every day. It's a marriage is work, like on the Marriage Medics website. Marriage is work. So it's an everyday job to make sure that your marriage.
Well, it is a job in the fact that there's work involved, and that there's a lot of interest and effort and energy that needs to be there. But it's a choice. You are choosing to work that job. Just like if you were to go and tell your boss at work, hey, I really enjoy working here, but I don't really like the work. I mean, he's going to understand that part of it, because who likes to work? But there's a payoff to you going and performing for your supervisor, your boss, your you know, whomever it is that oversees you. There's a return on your labor, because you're doing something for them in the process. That's why they pay you. They don't pay you just to show up. They pay you to perform, to better the company, the product, the sales, whatever it is. So it is a choice, but it's a choice to work. Right. And I think that's where most of our marriages, if not all of our marriages that struggle, that's where the struggle is they don't think that marriage should be work. What in this world is worth anything that doesn't involve work? I mean, work it's a term that we have so begrudged in our environment. And it's because we're a bunch of lazy people now. It's not because work is a bad thing or work doesn't bring good results. It's because we've kind of slandered the word. We've kind of put the word to where it's derogatory. Work is the way you produce anything. You're not going to produce anything. The word produce is a work. Those are synonyms together so oftentimes.
True. And people don't work, and that's why their marriage failed.
I mean, how do you expect your marriage to be? Do we really think that we find somebody, hey, I think I choose you, I want to marry you, but I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to work on what we have. I'm certainly not going to expect you to work and you know, pitch in anything, but we're going to have the best marriage ever.
Yes, because we take each other for granted, and we take the marriage for granted, and we just assume everything's going to be okay, and everybody's just going to put up with whatever we do, and we can just treat everybody however we want to. And so we get lazy and you're right. You know, anything worth having is work. But back to the retreat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So back to the retreat. So you had this great idea, which I was very nervous about, and he set everything up. But we are now looking at the last week to sign up. So we're doing this video on a Sunday, and a week from tomorrow on a Monday will be the deadline to RSVP, and we have to have a number and have to know how many people are going to be there for the venue. So,
So
we
you can
hope-
get fed. And so there's a bed for you if you choose to spend the night. That's why we need the RSVP.
And just knowing
it's
how many
not
people
just
is gonna be
for
there.
us. It's good information for us, but it's more for the facility
Yes.
to be able to accommodate us. Because
Yes.
we can't show up over capacity. We can't show up and have people sitting in the floor. I mean, that's not doing you justice if you chose to come, and then when you get there, we can't house you. We can't seat you for the day. It's just part of the prepreration.
Right. And we're going to have different speakers, and
We've got a really good program
yes.
of talking with other men who can present some information for us to think. And thinking is work. There are some people who get paid to think. That's their job, is to think. They're creators. That's what they do. They create. So we need to think our way through life, and that's one of the things that our Lord taught us to do, was think for ourselves. Don't just listen to what's being told you. Think for yourself, and of course, in light of the Scriptures, do those things. But we really, I think, have a really good lineup of people to help us to think better. This is the part where I stop interrupting.
No, I was done. I was just telling the story behind how that started, and we want to start something hopefully in the future at the congregation we're at. Maybe monthly, to bring people in to talk about marriage topics. This is definitely something that needs to be talked about. Is definitely needed in the world today. If you look at the divorce rate, you look at kids without fathers. It's just amazing. You look at kids that go into, drugs and all kinds of things because of their parents' divorce and what they put them through. And it's needed. It's crazy. It's one of the number one needed things in the world, but then it's so hard to get
But it's
people.
the last one on the priority list.
Yes, so because everybody just wants to live their little life
And cruise control.
and, put their little perfect pictures out there and put everything fake, knowing that
Be cool.
knowing that a lot of things are just that, they're fake. And we need people to be real and open up and say that they're having problems so that they can, like we said in the last video, if you say that you have a problem, then and acknowledge it, then we can help to fix the problem or help you to get started on the road to fixing the problem and not be where we ended up.
When you met your spouse, probably the first thing that really struck you was the eye contact. Because when you're interested in someone, you'll give them the eye contact. And as Kelly's sitting here saying this about identifying the problem and acknowledging the things that we all individually need to acknowledge, but as a couple, as a unit, we mentioned that marriage is spiritual, and it really is. It's not just physical. You can have a physical relationship with all kinds of people. You meet your fishing buddy, that's a physical relationship because you get in the same boat with him and you go to the fishing hole. Maybe girls, they have their walking buddies or their go shopping buddies. Those are physical relationships. I'm not just talking about the intimacy of a physical relationship, but marriage is spiritual because it's supposed to be two becoming one. Well, two physical people cannot become one. That has to be a spiritual thing. That has to be an emotional thing. It has to be beyond the physical. Just like when we love, we don't just love with our bodies only. We love with our minds that motivate and generate within our bodies an action. And that action is how we show or display that love. And that's how it's even received. You have to receive that love in mind and body for it to be a productive, experience. So when we think about that oneness, think of the eye contact that you had when you were longing for your mate, and how that, maybe it was the eyes that got your contact, or maybe it was you enjoyed sitting down across from your mate and the actual eye contact. Well, this is the part where eye contact is important too. Working out your problems, eye contact is going to say a whole lot. So if the husband's sitting over there, whittling on a stick, or he's, trying to fiddle with something or whatever, and he's not making eye contact with his wife, that's the number one sign that I ain't listening. And then if the wife doesn't want to hear the husband of whatever he's got to say because her needs are, prioritized above his or whatever, and there's no contact, there's no eye contact, that just means you're not listening. So what we're trying to do is get you to sit down across from your mate and actually have a meaningful conversation with eye contact and listen and pour out what's going on. Yes, there's hurts, and yes, there's pains, and yes, there's disappointments, and yes, there's animosities and all those other things in marital problems. But the eye contact says more from your soul and from your heart than any of your words do. Because words are sometimes expressed with a little vehemence. Maybe we say those words a little bit passionately when we're really coming down at somebody. But your eye contact is pure. So try to stay with the things that bound your marriage together, bound your relationship in a loving way. Try to think your way through some of these things and use some of the things that made you one, keep you one. Does that make sense?
It does. And the eye contact takes work, and you need to plan, because, especially with women, they have children running around, and they may be fixing supper or cleaning house, or the husband may be thinking about the car,
or he's just come home from work and he's tired.
Yeah,
he's
tired,
hammered.
and you need to make sure you're on the same page when that happens, and plan it out. You plan everything else out. Everybody has everything planned. We have the whole day for our kids planned. We have
It's
ball
August.
games.
The rest of your year is probably planned.
We have ball games. We have parties, birthday parties. Everything that we do, we plan out. So why would you not plan your conversations with your spouse out and plan
And
it?
if you don't put forth the energy to plan it out, do you just want a happenstance relationship? Do you just want a haphazard, we had time this week, we didn't have time that week? Let that apply to everything else in your marriage and
make
see
it
how
a
that
priority.
works.
Make it a priority. In this crazy world, make a priority to sit down and talk to your spouse face to face. And even if it's just once a week, sit down and say, how are we doing? What can we do different?
Can you believe I went to work this week and I got a paycheck? Just haphazardly, paycheck shows up.
Yeah. What can we do different? What can we work on? What did I do last week that you liked? What did I do last week that you didn't like? What can
Careful,
we do different
guys.
next?
Careful.
And look,
That's a woman conversation.
Yeah,
Not a man
yeah.
conversation.
Well,
Men, if you bring that up.
This is somebody, he will say, I'm sure later on in more in depth, but he says all the time that he had an ego death. So this is somebody that in our first marriage, I guess we'll go ahead and say that we were married. He mentioned that we married in 93, and we were married for
Nearly 20 years.
Nearly 20 years, and then we were apart for a while, and we're back together. We've reconciled, and it's amazing the second go around how everything is different. But we both had to go through a lot of heartache and a lot of self-reflection. And he talks about ego death, how he had to have ego death.
I can tell you a whole lot about ego death.
And before, he was that stubborn man that didn't want to listen, that thought he was right about everything, that didn't want to sit down and have that eye to eye
I didn't have time
conversation.
for that. I didn't have time for that. I was too busy. I was working. I was working 2 full-time jobs. I was I was career oriented. I was driven. And I don't know that you could find anybody that was more driven, but I was driving in the wrong direction.
And that's the whole point. You're just talking about your work. You know, you were driven in your work and your career, you know, but home life was something that neither one of us were driven in trying to be successful at, because we were very selfish. Yes, we got married young, and yes, that had a lot to do with it. And we would tell anybody, recommend anybody, not get married when you're young, because
know who you are first.
yes, and everybody is broken to a degree. I don't know of anybody out there that had just the perfect childhood and had everything just go their way, and they don't have any issues. And especially nowadays, there's so many mental issues, and we're not trying to make light of those at all.
No.
We deal with those in our own family. So you need to know that, and that's a whole another thing. But you need to know that.
But while you're on
you
that,
know the brokenness of the other one.
if you do have mental issues, if you do have some serious things that need some serious attention, don't ignore this. Go seek out someone. That someone who can either be honest with you and tell you that they're not qualified to handle it, or that someone that can put you in a position to where you can talk to a professional. I was the first person to minimize that, to almost to a certain degree kind of scoff at that idea. But I'm telling you, going through what we have gone through, trauma is debilitating. Mental instability is something that is not to be taken lightly. So for me to say this, just interrupt you just 1 second to say, if you're struggling, seek some help. And it doesn't have to be from a clinician. It doesn't have to be from somebody with all the degrees and things behind their name. It might just be someone who loves you and who could hear you and see if we could guide each other to that help that is needed. Because look, it's tough. It's tough. And we have lived through a lot of mistakes, and we have lived through a lot of difficult days. But I will tell you that that's not something to scoff at. It's not something to minimize and say, well, you know, I'm just crazy or whatever.
No.
Get some help. Seek some advice. Seek some kind of comfort, because there is comfort there for you if you can find the right help.
Right. And if you're not married, if you're young and not married, don't think that, you know, finding a relationship, finding a mate or finding somebody who's going to make all of that go away.
It's not.
Because the ideal situation needs to be two whole people getting together and continuing to make each other whole, and you know, being whole together instead of you both
Two halves trying to make one.
Yes, because that usually doesn't work.
Oh, it's not going to work. It'll work for a while,
Right.
until the divide is so great that your two halves can't hold the whole. Right. How are you gonna build anything on the half of a platform? How are you gonna build anything on half of a foundation? Because that's essentially what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a whole home on two halves of a foundation.
And that's where we were.
And
So
that's exactly where we
didn't-
were.
yeah.
And it worked for a while until something came along and tipped the half over. And then once the cascade starts to happen, you can, but it's very difficult to stop it.
So we're getting our time limit here.
We have a time limit?
Well, yeah, we can't talk like. Did I mention he was a preacher? I don't know if I mentioned that
we
earlier,
don't.
but
Time limits.
yeah.
You done hurt my feelings now.
Well, this video was about telling about the retreat and kind of what we wanted to do. And
if you're interested in the retreat, go to marriagemedics.com. There's a package on there that you can hover over it and see it, or you can go down and click the arrows and it'll pull it up for you. Print that out, mail that in, call us. There's a phone number on there where you can call us, or you can even go on to marriagemedics.com and click the I want to attend, and we'll work out the finance part of it if you'll call us. But we just need a head count. We need to know who wants to come and who wants to start this endeavor with us. This is new. We have no idea what's going to happen with this.
Right.
This is kind of one of those faith things.
And we're at the end. We're close to the deadline. We have about a week left. So
Yeah.
don't forget to RSVP.